Two men, two world champions, two title holders from two rival global promotions square off on one historic night. This Sunday, Impact Wrestling presents Rebellion, and it all comes down to this. Impact Wrestling World Champion Rich Swann.
Every single time we stepped into that ring, I got the better of you. I was the better man.
And AEW World Champion Kenny Omega.
The marks, the fans, want the wrestlers to be just like them. Kenny Omega's not like you. Kenny Omega is gifted with a massive intellect. Kenny Omega is gifted with tremendous athletic credentials.
To be a world champion, it means you are the best. You have no peers. You stand on the mountaintop alone, and every fellow competitor has marked a target on your back. As a world champion, you are more than just a great athlete and professional wrestler. You are the flag bearer for your brand, and you look to plant that flag in every ring you compete in.
You know, to be a world champion simply means that you're the best at what you do in this universe. The two champions that are going to be competing in the match we're talking about have that going for them. As by their peers, their family, their fans, they're the best at what they do.
Being a world champion, being a former Impact world champion, TNA world champion, is everything, you know, and I think anyone that says that they got into wrestling and didn't want to be the world champion, they're either lying to you or they're in wrestling for the wrong reasons. I never got into wrestling because I wanted to make money or I wanted to be famous. I got into wrestling because I love wrestling, and there's no bigger compliment, you know, inside of wrestling of a massive multimedia company saying, you know, you're the flagship of this company. You're the best right now at what you do.
Everybody wants to be the champion because you want to be able to say that you're the best. You want to be able to say that you have achieved your dream. That was my dream, to become Impact World Champion. And I was able to do it a couple of times because I always wanted to be the face of Impact Wrestling. I want to be the guy that tries to bring other people to Impact Wrestling. I want to be somebody who turns on Impact Wrestling on TV and they see me holding that belt because Impact Wrestling is what I am. Impact Wrestling is in my heart and soul. That's why I'm here. I'm here to be a champion. Everybody wants to be champion. Unfortunately, not everybody can. In the end, you see what you're worth and you go out there and try to get that belt.
Rebellion is going to be one of the biggest matches in wrestling history. It will change the course and the trajectory of two wrestling companies. Whoever comes out of this has made wrestling history.
The relationship between Impact Wrestling and All Elite Wrestling is something that is unheard of in the modern era.
Look, I think one of the things that we've tried to do here at Impact Wrestling over the last few years is really establish relationships with other companies. Whether it be smaller promotions that we work with on developing talent, or whether it be companies like AAA in Mexico, Lucha Underground, New Japan Pro Wrestling Noah, and yes, most recently AEW. So I think this type of collaboration is good for everybody. It's good for the companies and certainly good for the fans.
It has the entire business buzzing. Dream matches, fantasy alliances, and confrontations. It's a brave new world in professional wrestling.
This is an exciting time for pro wrestling in general, but you know, especially when you look closer, you look at Impact Wrestling, the relationship with us in AEW, it's something that if you told me last year, a few months ago that this was gonna happen, I wouldn't believe it. I don't think anybody would. But it just proves how strong Impact Wrestling is. Impact Wrestling is now a destination. Impact Wrestling is a place that people wanna be, and it's a place that other companies wanna work with, and that's why AEW is working with us and we're working with AEW.
It's an interesting part of wrestling history. It's, to my recollection, two companies that are on TV at the same time, in the same space, have never worked jointly before. So it's Pandora's box, you know, and it's cool to be on one side of that. The possibilities seem endless. Hopefully it continues for a long time.
What do I think about the relationship between AEW and Impact Wrestling? Why wouldn't they want to work with Impact Wrestling? Impact has been the redheaded stepchild of professional wrestling for years, but people are taking notice. We are the hottest thing in all professional wrestling. Any company that has the draw Sami Callihan is the top company in all professional wrestling.
When I heard about Impact and AEW collaborating together, it was a complete surprise. I was curious what the fans, how they were gonna react, and Everything has been really positive. I think the fans just love the fact of the possibility of certain wrestlers being able to face other wrestlers in different companies. And, you know, everyone always feels like they got to pick a company. I think it really shows our business as almost, I don't know, I wouldn't use the word family, but we really do share a bond of this passion and brotherhood and sisterhood.
I think the relationship between Impact and AEW is great, not only for Impact Wrestling, but for AEW. And this is a place that breeds passion. Wrestlers with passion come to Impact because this company has a rich history. It gives people chances. And it's not just a stepping stone, it's a place where people can come and cultivate their talent and become better wrestlers and better people.
I have mixed thoughts about the AEW Impact relationship. This has never worked out well in the history of the business. The last time we had a cross-promotion match was in ECW with Mike Awesome from WCW, Taz from WWE inside an ECW ring. That all happened because of backstage stuff. Then I wrestled Taz, won the ECW title. He was contracted to WWE. There was a lot of stuff that went on. Taz had to fly first class. That is the little stuff that goes on.
Well, I think the AEW Impact relationship is still evolving. I'm not sure where it's going to go. I know that Tony Khan, the owner of AEW and my boss, is a very, very open-minded and is still a major wrestling fan. The blunt of that story is the fact that personally, I like controversy. I like excitement, unpredictability. And I don't think anybody can debate the point that since the AEW Impact relationship, and I don't even know if it's really a relationship, it seems like it's an entanglement. The thing it's done for us at AEW is that it's given us the opportunity to see some Impact talent on our shows, namely the Good Brothers, and they've made our show better. So as far as I'm concerned, all the corporate stuff, I could care less. It means nothing to me. What I care about is what I see in the ring. And what I've seen in the ring from this entanglement has been very positive.
Super Clash 3, the AWA champion, Jerry Lawler versus the World's Class champion, Kerry Von Erich. The match was bleh. It was an indecisive finish, and later on, the whole merger was dissolved. Again, the history of the business. The AWA was founded on the championship of one company where Vern Gagne thought he was better and then said, I'm gonna start my own. So the backstage egos, politics is all what makes it go awry. We have had a decent relationship. I feel at times it is one-sided towards AEW. Our talent has been represented there, and with Don Callis and with the Good Brothers, all of Kenny Omega's friends. There's a lot more very, very talented men and women here in Impact Wrestling that could be spotlighted on their show. When AEW wrestlers come to Impact Wrestling, our announcers put them over. They talk very, very highly of them. There's very little mention of Impact when they are over on AEW. Tony Schiavone, I would like to slap his fat face for the things that he says on the air. And some days you will get that. You will get those receipts. You don't need to be disrespectful when you're trying to have a working relationship, and that's why I'm trying to say, I've seen this before, it all goes awry, and I don't think in the end of this all, it'll work out well.
Long before pro wrestling became a global phenomenon, it was a regional presentation and broken up into what was then known as the territories. Champions would travel to various territories and represent their respective companies.
If you want to legitimatize a championship, it shouldn't be strictly a company championship, in my opinion. So I think it's smart. I think it creates competition. I think it gives the fans a chance to see the very best, not just in one locale or one night, in one place, all the time. You know, the idea of building a fan base is never ending for the promoters. And I think a traveling champion, you know, I got in the business, the NWA champion was the traveling champion. And a few times a year, you'd see the NWA champion come through your area. It kept the title special. It allowed more people to experience great wrestling. So I think it's a great concept. It's just a matter of, will politics rear its ugly head and screw this up too?
You kidding me? Everyone's got an ego. Everyone's a freaking egomaniac. Yeah. They're too afraid to step up to the plate, put a title on the line because, geez, oh my goodness, what would happen if our champion got exposed and didn't look like the strongest world champion ever? Well, guess what? That's the reality. Everyone's so afraid to be exposed against Kenny Omega.
You got two major promotions that have no egos, and they're willing to give the fans something special. They're giving these wrestling fans something that I wish I would have saw. I know I would have lost my mind if when The Rock, Dwayne Johnson, when he was the world champion, showed up on Monday Night Nitro and challenged Booker T.
In a world that we live in today, where so much is based off of social media and instant gratification, and everybody feels like they're the star of their own movie of their life, I think we have to look historically at some of the amazing champions who I think really showed how to carry themselves and be a proper flag bearer for their company and their championship. And when you talk about individuals like Lou Thesz, Nick Bockwinkel, Vern Gagne, you talk about somebody who I grew up idolizing and I'm lucky enough to call a friend with Bret Hart. These are people who took being champion and being a representative of the company and holding that championship seriously.
When you are the world champion, you represent your company. You represent the men and women that work in that company. It is a big responsibility. It's a responsibility that you have the moment you walk out your door, the moment you go out and live your life, however when you're in the airports, when you're at the grocery store, when you're at the gym, you are the world champion because you are a representative of every single man and woman that gets a paycheck from that company. Wrestlers that have represented being a world champion of a company: Nick Bockwinkel, 1980s Ric Flair, Terry Funk, Jack Briscoe.
For me, that's guys like the Christian Gages. That's guy like the Kurt Angles. That's guys like the Stan Hansens, the Vaders, guys that traveled around the world honing their craft, making professional wrestling what it is today.
The champions who I think represented the companies the best as champions, I would say at the top of my list would be a Kurt Angle. And Molly Holly for the female side, I would say equally. Not only did they bring what was necessary in the ring, the greatness, the talent, the ability, they were just so well-rounded in every way. But not just that, it was attitude. And, the human being that you are in this business makes a huge difference to me. And in my books, Kurt Angle and Molly Holly are top of the list.
The Renaissance Man, Kenny Omega, coming to Impact Wrestling as the AEW World Champion, sends shockwaves throughout the entire professional wrestling universe.
I've known this man since he was 10 years old, and I watched him as he became a world-class athlete. I watched him as he became the best wrestler in the world. I was there like an invisible hand.
You see, Kenny and Don Callis, we're family.
You were on Impact Wrestling on Access TV with that belt.
What we do is change history.
All the paradigms are being broken.
A world champion appearing on a rival's program wearing their world championship belt is something that has not been seen in decades. But why?
Well, the reason that we haven't seen from major wrestling companies a title versus title match is really simple. You don't have to be a rocket scientist. That's a bad cliche. But you have got to be overly bright, Mensa member to figure that out. Politics. Politics can be the scourge of our earth. You can hear about it ad nauseum in other areas of politics. Wrestling promoters have major egos. They all want to be the best, and that's cool. But the promotions didn't want to work together. Not understanding that the more you work together, the more you can build your fan bases, respectively. So I think it's nothing but more than politics. And apparently, I can't speak for the management at Impact, but I can certainly speak for Tony Khan. He's not big into politics. He's big into competition and quality pro wrestling.
I don't think there's ever been a time in my generation that a world champion has been going from television company to television company. We are at the cusp of something great.
Imagine now that you didn't have to go to the Louvre to see the Mona Lisa, that the Mona Lisa would come to your city, your town, your hamlet, your village, your studio, and you could see it up close, and you could say, I saw a masterpiece this close. That's what you are gifting.
Oh yeah.
All of the insect fans out there right now when you visit all these other places, whether it's Japan, Mexico, Canada, Impact, AEW, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You are showing them greatness. Kenny Omega invites you to come and taste the greatness and feel just for a second what it's like to be a god among insects. That's what he does for you.
Ladies and gentlemen, what you are about to witness is greatness. What you're about to witness is the greatest athlete alive and the greatest professional wrestler in the history of the industry. He is your AEW World Champion and the soon-to-be Impact Wrestling World Champion. Scott, Hackenschmidt, Flair, Hogan are all insects in the shadow of the giant of professional wrestling, the god of pro wrestling, from Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada, Kenny, my God, Omega!
Kenny Omega is a once-in-a-millennium professional wrestler and professional athlete. And he is a once-in-a-multi-millennial human being. Because you see, if Kenny Omega had not been so great at professional wrestling, he would have gone on, without a doubt, to become perhaps a world-famous humanitarian, world leader, or something like that. I think that God has bestowed many gifts on Kenny Omega. And Kenny Omega had the choice to be whatever he wanted to be and to do whatever he wanted to do.
I had a choice, I had options.
We've both chosen in our lives, despite the fact that we don't care for the professional wrestling business and certainly don't like the people in it.
Lowlifes, scum.
That would be a good way of
Bottom
putting it.
feeders.
Yeah, it's as low as it gets. Marks.
Yeah.
Biggest marks are in the dressing room, Kenny. We know
I
that.
all too well, all too well.
But we've used the professional wrestling industry, despite all those foibles that it has, as our platform, as our canvas to paint our picture, which goes far beyond this industry and extends into everything.
One of the things that has came out over the last few months with this collaboration with Impact and AEW is, quite truthfully, I think that people are getting to see a little bit of a glimpse, or maybe even a full view now, of the full Don Callis. Look, I've known Don for 25 years, but the fact is, anyone who's ever thought that Don Callis had anyone's best interest other than Don Callis's, at heart, they have no idea what makes Don tick.
What he's doing, in my eyes, is just wrong. You know, he's kind of thrown Impact Wrestling to the side. But let me tell you, again, Impact Wrestling, it truly is a family. The locker room, the office, production, everybody, it's a family unit. And to have somebody, one of our own, turn their back and go elsewhere and try to help somebody else just to help raise his stock, help raise Kenny Omega's stock, just for their own purposes, that's wrong in my book. You don't do that. You don't do that to family, and you don't do that to friends.
Don could find himself in some really weird situations. Don could put himself and Impact as a company in a very compromising position. But at the same time, I think the controversy and the singularity of what is going on, it is good for this company, good for pro wrestling, and probably in turn good for Don. So he's no dummy.
People have speculated, talked about Don Callis's allegiance. He has an allegiance to nobody. Kenny Omega, he loves you. Kenny Omega, Don Callis loves himself more than any other person you've ever met. And you're talking to Tommy Dreamer, and I'm an egomaniac for myself. Don Callis will turn on you, Kenny Omega. Don Callis would turn on you for a nickel and go with Chris Jericho. Don Callis would turn on you and go to the WWE in a heartbeat for a dime. Don Callis is in this business for Don Callis. Don Callis is in this business to make money. And Don Callis is a whole different Don Callis than I've ever seen. And I've known the guy for 20 plus years.
Don Callis, the invisible hand. He got his boy, Mr. Meltzer's favorite, the 7-star athlete, the best bout machine, Kenny Omega. He wants to see him take my pride and joy away from me. He calls himself the invisible hand. Maybe they should call him the invisible head, because he's got his head shoved so far up Kenny Omega's ass, you can't even see him.
Kenny Omega is a once-in-a-lifetime generational talent, a renaissance man. He is known as the best bout machine, the god of professional wrestling. But what makes this amazing athlete so special?
I think Kenny Omega's one of the best wrestlers in the world. I'm not wild about his personality these days, but they don't pay me to judge personality. They pay me to call wrestling matches. His wrestling matches are damn sure fun to call because he's really, really good and he's very innovative and he's got signature moves that he's made his.
Kenny Omega, there's no denying that Kenny Omega he's an absolute great athlete. He's a great professional wrestler. You know, everywhere he's gone, he's succeeded. He went to New Japan. He became the IWGP World Champion. He goes to AEW. He's now the AEW World Champion. Anywhere he's gone out and he's had some of the absolute best matches that anybody's ever seen.
Kenny Omega is an in-ring performer. I think he's, right now, probably the best bell to bell. I don't know if that's arguable, and I look at wrestling as subjective because it is art. You know, in the end, professional wrestling is a form of art. So I don't think you're never going to have 99% of people agree. But I think if you were to poll 1,000 wrestling fans, he would be as far as in-ring performers, he's in the top 5 in almost everybody's list, mine included.
There's no question when you peel back all the layers of the onion, when you get past all the bragging and all the pomp and circumstance, Kenny Omega is possibly the greatest pure competitor in the history of professional wrestling.
He is one of the best. I have said this, gone on public record. Kenny Omega had something that I call, I've never seen it before. He had a perfect match. When I say the perfect match, there was no flaws, there was no holes in his game. Kenny Omega looks at this business differently. He looks at it as an art form. He wants to do so many different things. And then when you see Kenny Omega in a barbed wire match, or because he wants to do these things, Kenny Omega does things for Kenny Omega and what interest Kenny Omega. I think he is generational talent, and I think Kenny Omega is one of the best professional wrestlers and has stepped up his game with every one of his opponents.
What is it that makes me different? Can they sum it up into words? Can they sum it up into some kind of formulaic response? They look in the mirror and they see what they see looking back at them, and they wonder, what is it that makes me so much different? Really, I may be only 20 pounds heavier or 20 pounds lighter, depending on who you are. I may only have 50 pounds of extra lean muscle in this frame. The thing is, when you supercharge one of the greatest athletic bodies in all of professional wrestling, there within lies your answer. There within lies the groundwork and the formula that you're searching for. It starts off with the athletic background. It starts off with God's gift that was bestowed upon me, but it goes far beyond just being a wrestling fan, having a comprehension of maneuvers, of how to act, of how to look like a wrestler, how to talk like a wrestler, how to sound like a wrestler, how to present myself like a wrestler. It goes far beyond that. You see, I was once a fan of wrestling just like each and every one of you, just like you, Rich Swann. I was a fan of wrestling. Then I fell out of love with it. And why is that, Don Callis? Do you know why?
It's a disgusting business.
Because when I got to take a look deep down at its core, beneath the surface, I got to see what kind of human beings really populate this business.
Scum of the earth.
Scum of the earth. These are people that I idolized. These are my heroes growing up. Why did I want to be like them? I'm already athletically more gifted. I'm already a better human being. All I needed was the guidance, the training. That's what the invisible hand gave to me. And now that a better human being and a better athlete has succeeded and has brought himself to this level on the cusp of being one of the all-time greats, one of the all-time legends, among the names of, please.
Gotch.
There's got to be more.
Hackenschmidt.
There's got to be a couple more.
Strangler Lewis. Like that one?
Yep.
Harley Race, Dory Funk, Terry Funk, Jack Briscoe, Jerry Briscoe, Vern Gagne, Greg Gagne. Ah!
The proof is in the pudding. Look, I'm not gonna spout off my resume. You Google search my name, check my Wikipedia page, you'll see probably most of my accolades. There's probably some that go unnoticed. But I'm winning titles all over the world. I'm winning awards all around the world. Not just from industry experts, not just from the wrestlers themselves, not from the fans. We're talking about media. We're talking about normal, everyday people that can recognize me as one of the greatest athletes in all of sports entertainment and all of sports. Who are the greatest athletes to ever step foot in the ring? Guess whose name comes out at the top of the list, huh? Kenny Omega. And I know it hurts. The thing is, when you have the acumen, when you have the accolades, when you have the people that are doing it just like I am, that can't even deny it, that admit it on a daily basis, that I am the greatest athlete to step foot in the ring, who also has it up here. No matter what makes you sleep at night, what makes you feel better about yourself, fan at home, fan in the ring, fan in the back with me. Facts are facts. And you have to be at peace with knowing that the God amongst men that walks among you is sitting right here.
Whichever one of you walks out as the Unified Impact World's Champion is going to be in the main event at Rebellion. And that Unified Impact World Champion will step in the ring one-on-one, live on pay-per-view, title versus title, with the AEW World's Champion Kenny Omega. 2 titles, 2 companies, history will be made.
There will only be one champion, one man, immortalized.
You can see the enormity of this match on both of these wrestlers. Look at all the gold. That's what's on the line right now. Oh my God!
Shift of the momentum! Fall away, moonsault, drawn out of the way! Crucifix, shoulders down, roll through, stack! 2! History has been made! He's done it! He's done it! Rich Swann is the new Unified World Champion!
Rich Swann is a resilient champion who has always overcome daunting odds. Nothing was ever given to this native son of Baltimore.
Many people have went broke betting against Rich Swann. Many people have came out having learned the lesson that you can't underestimate Rich. Rich Swann is undersized, but his heart is massive. He is an amazing athlete, but it's trapped in a undersized, smaller body. But that's what's propelled him to the levels that he's been able to go to.
All the adversity, all the loss, everything he has had to endure would have derailed the lifelong dreams of most any athlete striving to become a professional wrestler. But Rich Swann is no ordinary man. He's an extraordinary blend of speed, athleticism, and God-given charisma.
What makes Rich Swann special is you have to really know him to understand his story. We could all appreciate what he does in the ring and some of the things he does with such ease. He has been an underdog his entire life with his size, grew up in not the best environment, and fought for everything that he had in his life. And when you come from that, and when I'm talking about fight, it's not fight to get something you want, it's fight for your survival, it's fight for your life.
I've said it before, I'll say it again. Rich Swann is one of the most talented human beings I've ever met in my life. Not because what he can do in the ring, not because what he can do behind the scenes, but because what he has that a lot of people don't have, and that is true damn heart. His heart is bigger than anyone in the professional wrestling business. Parents died when he was 16 years old, went on to live his dream. Everything in his life has built up to this one moment, and Rich Swann ain't gonna let that pass through his fingers.
I think Rich Swann is loaded with courage. He's never going to be 6'4", 6'5", and 260. Okay, that just in. But he's amazingly athletic. He's driven. He wasn't raised with a silver spoon in his mouth. I can appreciate that. He came back from a devastating injury, a severely broken leg, and he has apparently lost a step. So I think he'll be one of the most interesting challengers to Kenny Omega's AEW title.
He is a hybrid. He is a blueprint of the future. Unmatched, and now fully unleashed.
Rich Swann is a guy that you can just be around and you're just happy, you have fun. He has just this positivity about him. And beyond that, he's ridiculously talented inside the ring.
He's an anomaly from an outside person, or even a person that doesn't like pro wrestling or he doesn't watch it a bunch. I think if you were to look at Rich, that you would sell him short, and that would be your mistake. A guy with endless charisma, endless potential, endless in-ring ability. He is an absolute student of the game and understands wrestling on a very, very high level. In my opinion, maybe one of the most versatile and one of the best in-ring performers that this company's ever seen.
He's truly one of a kind. You know, the fans get to see something in the ring, and you get a taste of what Rich is while he's out there. But Rich Swann in the back, in the locker room, you know, traveling together and stuff, he is truly one of a kind, where he is just a good dude. He has a great heart, and you can see the love, you can feel the love of professional wrestling that he has by just talking about it with him, but just going back and forth about wrestling. You can see the love he has, and that's the reason why he is the world champion right now. And he is living his dream to the absolute best of his ability, and I am proud to call him not just a friend, but to call him our Impact World Champion.
It's not about winning the title, it's the journey that got you to that point, and you finally have this ultimate success. And when you're a fighter like Rich Swann, you are gonna do everything that you can to hold on to that. Rich Swann's strikes have knocked me into tomorrow. And then seeing his flying ability, and then seeing him take down men twice his size, this is why what makes him so special, because he can do it all.
Dynamic champion. He's a real spitfire.
Truly does have, to coin a phrase, the heart of a champion.
He does, absolutely.
He is a phenomenal athlete, and he's a guy who has that fifth gear where you think he's done, but then he just turns it on. He is an amazing athlete, and in a non-Kenny Omega world, he would probably be the Impact champion for a long time. Unfortunately, he's running into a buzzsaw. He is a kite dancing in a hurricane, and the name of that hurricane is Hurricane Kenny Omega. You can't teach talent. You can't teach athleticism. Those are God-given abilities. Rich Swann's hard work ethic and determination, those are things you can learn. He already has those. So when it comes down to pure athletics, you're not gonna outwork Kenny Omega, and you sure as the hell aren't gonna outperform him.
Green love, I'm not the apple of your eye.
Just everything that I've been through in my life, I've just always been able to battle adversity. I always knew in my mind that world championship was right there in the grasp, even before I got injured. And that was the goal. That was the thing at the finish line that made me say, look, get up off your ass, take the pain, fight it, and go get what you know you can go get, the world championship. To be on the list of names of the guys that have held the Impact World Championship and the TNA World Championship, it's something that I will hold near and dear to my heart for the rest of my life and take it to the grave, because guys like AJ Styles, Christian, Sting, man, Kurt Angle. The list goes on and on and on. These are guys that I've looked up to, that I've watched growing up, and that I've dreamt of being when I got into that ring, and hoping that I could just have my name etched in stone next to theirs in the history of professional wrestling. And now, I am a part of that list of history. And I don't want to stop. I want to keep on making history. I want to keep going.
This Sunday at Rebellion features a monumental main event. 2 world champions go head-to-head. Impact versus AEW.
I think Kenny Omega is a great athlete. I think he's one of the best in our industry today. One of the greatest we've seen in a long time. But this is the thing, this is the question. Do you think that they believe for real in their minds that Kenny Omega is truly the greatest wrestler of all time? Because he relies on his boys. He cheats. He sits back and he uses underhanded tactics. Think about it. The greatest of all time would not do that.
I'm willing to take my licks in order to get the upper hand in Rich Swann. If I didn't know what Rich brought to the table, I wouldn't be able to formulate a game plan for the real title match. It was always the master plan. I didn't come here for fun. I didn't come here for kicks. It was always the challenge for the belt. Rich, I needed to know how you fight, where you strike, how you strike, your speed, your power. I needed to know these things before going into the next pay-per-view. Because now I've got you figured out. I mean, I was confident in my ability before, but preparation is 2/3 of the battle. And now I'm prepared for you, Rich. So what are you gonna do now that I'm physically more dominant than you, physically more gifted than you, smarter than you? And now that I know you, understand you, what are you gonna do? You can't rely on your heart when I've got you figured out 5 ways from Sunday.
At Rebellion in less than 2 weeks, live on pay-per-view, Impact Wrestling and All Elite Wrestling will make history when the Impact Unified World Champion Rich Swann defends his championship against the AEW World Champion Kenny Omega. One man will leave as a double champion.
At the press conference, I was trying to be as professional as possible. I'm not arrogant. I'm not a guy who thinks so highly of himself. I was there on time. I was there ready to represent for Impact Wrestling. And there's no Kenny Omega, there's no Don Callis.
We're the type of guys that don't walk on the grass. We see the sign, we go play a little soccer. No smoking, pass me a cigarette.
Yeah. No loitering.
Let's loiter.
Let's
loiter it up.
Let's freaking loiter,
Let's
baby.
just loiter. I'd like to loiter.
Yeah.
Loitering's good.
Yeah.
You don't tell us what to do.
Yeah, hear the battle cry.
Kenny and Don, thank you for joining us.
Rich, this is a big opportunity for you. It's a big opportunity for Impact, but it's a big opportunity for you. I think you're great. I would love to have you in AEW. I think you'd be a great champion. Certainly, you seem like a more pleasant individual.
Rich is a great champion. We all know this. I advocated for him to be in the main event at Bound for Glory, where you won the world title.
Next time we meet is gonna be in the ring. I wish you the best of luck, but it's gonna be war, my friend. So, to the victor go the spoils, as they say.
Take him back to Baltimore.
Hey,
it's a garbage.
it's all mind games. Look, it's his first dance. Can't help it.
Sorry, kid.
See you boys at Rebellion, huh?
Coming out of Rebellion, as far as I'm concerned, no company is losing a world champion because there will be one individual at the end of the night at Rebellion who will be the Impact World Champion and the AEW World's Champion.
If Kenny Omega beats Swann at Rebellion, I'm not going to be happy. I don't want to see the Impact title on AEW.
A champion from another company coming in and winning this championship, it makes things very interesting, kind of rocks the foundation of professional wrestling. And I think the best wrestling happens when there's animosity and adversity and competition.
If Kenny Omega beats Rich Swann, I'm not going to be okay with it. Rich Swann, if you're watching this, I'm telling you right now, with every ounce of your being, you better beat Kenny Omega or else.
I love Rich Swann's story. I love his comeback. I love the fact that he's not going to quit on you. His fans are going to see the very best that he can bring. And I think that's a lot. It just may be enough to become the AEW World Champion. Somebody's leaving with 2 belts, is how I look at it. It's real simple. But I'm an AEW guy. I'm proud to be on the AEW team. Whether I like Omega personally or not is irrelevant. I do think that he is as good at his game, at his skill set, at his profession as anybody in the entire world in any company. So with that said, I'm going with Omega to leave with 2 titles.
Worlds collide, a new world revealed, a new future born. History will be made, memories forever etched in the annals of time.
My preparation is easy. The only thing that I have to do is avoid the one-winged angel. But Kenny, what are you gonna do? Because you have to prepare for all the other situations we were in the ring when I bested you. I was ahead of you. I was beating you. Kenny, what are you gonna do to prepare for those situations?
I've already had the greatest matches in all of professional wrestling history. Now it's about cashing in. Now it's about having the credentials. Now it's about showing physically, via the title belts, who the man is. And it's me.
This is possibly not only the biggest match in my career, but of this industry, of this sport, of this profession.
Kenny Omega is going to do what he did at the Tokyo Dome, what he did when he beat Jon Moxley, what he did in the death match. Kenny Omega, once again, will make history.
Change is coming. And we're ready to change the world, Mr. Callis.
You call yourself the best bout machine. You call yourself the 7-star athlete. Do you really believe that? Don Callis, the Good Brothers, at your beck and call. You need so many people in your corner to help you, to gaslight you, to say that you are the man, that you're the best. Well, Kenny Omega, I'm here to tell you right now that I am better than you. I don't need nobody to cheat for me. And I know I'm frickin' better than you. And Kenny, at Rebellion, I'm gonna prove it to you.